we've got an election coming up, and people are curious about which party leads to better stock returns. So we've got some information, and we're going to talk about the 3 best presidents and the 3 worst presidents, and what party affiliation really, how much it impacts the stock market. Hi, I'm Bridget Sullivan-Mermel, and I've got a fee-only financial planning practice in Chicago, Illinois.
And I'm John Shear. I've got a fee-only financial planning practice in Middleton, Wisconsin. And before we dig into presidential politics and its effect on the stock market, I want to remind everybody to hit that subscribe button, help other people find this information on YouTube. And with that, I'm interested to hear the information. I know you've been doing a lot of homework on this, Bridget, and tell me who to vote for so the stock market goes way up and everybody's happy.
Well, I can tell you who to vote for, but let's stick to the topic. Okay, so the worst president, and I think people could probably, if they think about this, they can probably figure it out, is Herbert Hoover. Right before the Great Depression, or right at the beginning of the Great Depression, he was at minus 30.8%. Yikes. Okay.
And we're talking, when we say worse, we're talking about how did the stock market do the worst while that person's in office, right? Exactly. That's what it is. And 30%, is that 30% per year?
Yeah.
That it went down?
Every year.
I mean, yeah. Ugly.
Ouch. But that means that, well, we'll talk about that. So the guy before him was one of the top ones, obviously.
Yeah, right.
And the next one after was FDR, and he was actually better than you would think, because you associate him with the
Great Depression. Yeah, right.
It was going up because it went down so far during the Hoover administration. Okay, next worst, which I don't think people would really think is, but I'm going to give him some slack, because remember, Hoover was minus 30%. Ouch. The next one is George W. Bush.
Oh, yeah.
Republican, minus 5.6.
Yeah.
Oh, he was hurt because the stock market took a big dive right before he got in.
Yeah.
Oh, you might remember the fiscal crisis right at the end of his administration. So that hurt him.
And right after he got in, if I remember that right, taking over, he was 2000 to 2008. So the tech bubble was just starting to tip over when he took over.
Yeah. So so that gets to one of our conclusions. It's going to be, there's other forces going on here that they have no control over. Okay. The third worst, I'm going to skip over, but I'll mention him, as Grover Cleveland. And then the other one coming in at minus 3.9 is Nixon. So they had a lot of inflation problems then, like similar to now, but worse, a lot worse. So anyway, and they were trying a lot of different things, and he just had a lot of problems. He probably wasn't focusing on the economy as much. But again, I don't even know if that matters. All right. So
what about all our Grover Cleveland fans here? You skipped right over him.
I don't know much about him. I got to admit, and I'm actually into history, and I don't know much about him. So he was in for, anyway. So if somebody's got comments about Grover Cleveland, please let us know in the
That's great. I want to hear about that. All right, sorry to throw us off track here. Let's get back
and our source, just so you know, is so we've got 2 sources. One is a DFA study that kind of gives you a timeline and goes through each person. Doesn't go back to Grover Cleveland. It starts with Calvin Coolidge. And then we also have a Kiplinger's survey, which looks at it, they calculate it by year. So, all right. So then let's go with the best. First, Calvin Coolidge, right before the roaring 20s. Okay. And that is 26.1. But okay. But now we get a modern era guy, and it is Bill Clinton. He's at 15.2. And then we get to Obama, 13.8, probably helped by the fact that Bush, it was low. And then we get into Trump at 13.7, like 0.1% lower. And I'm sure they know. Anyway, so that the trend, which DFA points out, is that generally the stock market does better. And again, this is the stock market, not the whole economy. We're not talking about we're just talking about the stock market does better during Democrat administrations, which is not what people think. I don't think that's what investors think.
Yeah, I think that that's absolutely the opposite probably of what I hear people talking about as far as what the impact on the stock market is.
Right.
And I think, this is maybe a good time to pull up that DFA chart, because it's really interesting. You kind of visually see those presidents that we've named out here before, right? And the run-ups in things and the run-downs as you go back to the Great Depression over there. And then you look back in the early part of this century where, Bush George W. Bush had a pretty bad run of things. And then, of course, when Obama got into office, things went up. And curious as you're describing those, Bridget, as I think about that, we've got the things back in the Great Depression. We got the credit crisis here earlier this century, and very similar, right? The president before has a real big run up, and then the president after, or excuse me, has a real big downturn, and the president after has the big run up, or vice versa on that, right? You
Right.
mentioned Clinton and Bush on the opposite ends, and then Obama, and so as I hear these things, I think, well, is it the presidency that makes a difference? And certainly there's some difference, but is it the cyclic nature of things? Is it, when one president passes policy or influences policy, does that policy immediately impactful, or does it take a while to be impacted? It's sort of like, to my way of thinking, white noise when it comes down to, like, how do we think about this? Who's better is, to me, sort of the wrong question to ask, or a question that doesn't have an answer that's meaningful, maybe.
Yeah, and I think that the DFA or dimensional chart, that the underlying point behind it is like, look, the stock market goes up.
Over time, right? Yeah, you look from left to right, it goes up. Right?
March of that is a bigger influence than who's in and how you exactly cut the piece of pie, and like that generally being in the stock market, no matter who is in administrate, which party's in, is smart, and not thinking that the policies of one administration or the other have everything figured out. The other thing is that I believe that if the presidents really could influence the stock market, they would. And so the fact that they don't seem to means that they kind of can't, I would say. And that's one of the conclusions I've drawn. The other thing is that I've thought about, why don't the Democrats talk more about the fact that they have a better record? And there's not that much data, actually. And there's so many other bigger factors compared to their political affiliation in play, I would say. So I think that they don't want to try to change that notion, because in the strike of one president, it could be opposite.
Yeah. And the other thing I think of as you described it, I think I don't disagree with that. But the president doesn't get to make the laws, right? So we've got Congress, we've got the House and the Senate, and some of those can be the same party as the president. They can be different parties. They can be different from each other. And so it's not, well, here's the thing that drives this. There's so many other factors that go into things, right? And what's going on in the economy with things. When we have the tech run up, and it made Bill Clinton's returns, outstanding by any measure. Is that because, did he have to do with those things? Maybe, right? Maybe not. Maybe the policies before or after. It's just like this sort of thing. These things happen. We as humans want to assign reasons. It makes sense. We need to process this and go, well, here's the reason for this and the reason for that. And in stock markets and politics, like anything else, there's reasons. There's no reason why some people, eat unhealthily and live into their 90s, and other people are, by all accounts, healthy, and they have cancer or heart attacks and die early, right? It's not, you try to connect the dots to everything, and it just doesn't always work that way. I think that the sort of tail things, the things that were the unexpected things, a lot of life is just random, and I think it applies in this case too. And you go, boy, it'd be nice to be able to connect the dots and say which one works, which is better than the other. But I just don't think that that's how it actually is in real life, which is what you were just describing.
Yeah, and at the end here, I want to just get into another issue that I know actually we agree on this topic, is that curiously, the last time and the only time in my lifetime there's really been a balanced budget was during that Bill Clinton era. And I wouldn't actually give him the credit for it. I would give it to the election ahead beforehand, like, because I don't know if he innately would have done that without pressure. That's a curious fact to me. But then
Right.
again, there's also the internet, there's the opening of markets because of the political situation in the USSR. So those are like a lot bigger factors, certainly, than Bill Clinton's affiliation and probably even the balanced budget, I would probably guess.
But that is, and certainly these days it seems like neither party is very interested in, what the deficit might be. Is it a connection? I don't know. It's certainly interesting to see that.
We have one data point, which we've said that all these data points aren't really building up a big story. Right. So one data point definitely doesn't, but it's curious.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, so I think that's a great place to wrap it up, John.
Love it.
I'm Bridget Sullivan Mermel. I've got a fee-only financial planning practice in Chicago, Illinois.
And I'm John Shear. I've got a fee-only financial planning practice in Middleton, Wisconsin. And both Bridget and I are taking on new clients. We'd love to hear from people that are interested in hiring a financial planner, but we're also members of the Alliance of Comprehensive Planners, which is a nationwide group of fee-only tax-focused planners that think similarly to us. So if you're looking for an advisor in your area, check out acplanners.org.
And please subscribe.